Excellent. Okay, so are we? Thank you very much and welcome. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. I'd like to confirm that all members are present with the exception of Councillor Bosomworth. We have 3 members who are joining us today in our first day of hybrid meetings via Zoom, and the remainder of committee members are here in the council chambers with me. I'd like to confirm as well that our CAO, clerk, and members of the senior management team are available, staff, and present. I'd also like to advise that we did not receive any public input, but we do receive it on the email address TML public comment at muskokalakes.ca. Remind everyone that today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in this open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. I would like to also acknowledge that we did receive a supplementary agenda pursuant to section 7.2.1 of Council Procedure Bylaw 2019-079. The following items were added. 4A, Justin Edwards will not be attending the Bala Arena. Item 5B, there will be a report from the Director of Public Works, read the arena's feasibility study terms of reference, the presentation. And item 7A, a report from the Fire Chief, read terms of reference for fire station location study presentation. At this point, committee, I would like to ask for any of those members who might have pecuniary interest. I do. I will be recusing myself from item number 4C, and that is because I am a member of Scarcliffe Road. Final note of explanation that all of our motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite this meeting. And at that point, I believe I can move us along actually into the items on today's agenda. And just before I do that, I did want to take a moment to, first of all, welcome everybody, members of the public, members of committee, for those of you who are here in person and those of you who are attending via Zoom. This is an exciting day. This is our inaugural hybrid meeting, which is somewhat ironic because I think this is the first meeting we've been able to be back together. And it was 3 years ago at this point that this was our last meeting together in this room. So the timing is somewhat interesting. You know, there has been a lot of planning and preparation that has gone into today. We do anticipate it to go well, but we have also anticipated that there's going to be key lessons learned. So certainly any feedback that you do have throughout today, please direct those to our clerk. And we will be following up as this is a soft launch. So it's an exciting day and we look forward to seeing how this goes today. I'd also, on that note, also like to welcome our new clerk. So welcome to Crystal Hiroshi, is that great? Who is sitting to my left here today. This is also her first week. So a lot of firsts as we begin today's meeting. And we really look forward to working together. So welcome to the Township. And with that, I would like to now open up to item 4B, which is Mr. Foley to attend the Bala Arena. So is Mr. Foley in the waiting room? Okay. He's in the meeting. Mr. Foley, I believe you are in the meeting. If you are there, could you? Yes, there you are. Welcome. I think you are on mute.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Foley. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Yourself?
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Foley. Welcome. You are our first official delegation on our hybrid meetings. So welcome today. We look forward to hearing from you. Just a reminder, you have 5 minutes. And after you've presented today, then I will open up the floor to committee members if they have questions.
Perfect.
I will turn the floor over to you.
Okay, so basically the idea is we're doing a hockey tournament in Bala. We're going to be inviting, we have a team from Gravenhurst, a team from McIntyre, and a team from Port Carling. All local guys, and it's going to be hosted by the Bala Legion. It's going to be a full day event. We're going to have a public skate for all the families in the middle of the day, right in the middle of the tournament. And we're going to be doing a food drive for the local food bank for all the players and families to bring. And we're going to do a big collection at the center, at the arena. We're going to do a 50-50 draw for one of our friends who passed away from a work accident this winter for his family and girls. And there's one other thing there. Sorry, one sec. Yeah, sorry. So we're going to be doing a food drive. We're going to do a 50-50 for Pete's family. And then what we're going to be doing is having like a luncheon for all the teams and families after or before the public skate for at the Legion, hosted by the Legion. And we're going to be handing out membership forms to all the players to try and promote registration for all the other local Legions in McIntyre, Port Carling, and Gravenhurst. So it's kind of like a multifaceted community event where we're trying to get guys from all over who've all played hockey together for years, kind of back together, reconnected. And what I'm calling about is basically just trying to see if the township would be willing to help with the fees for the hockey tournament. Like we'll cover the referees and the timekeepers and everything else. We're just looking to see if the township would be willing to sponsor some of the ice time. The quote that we got, I think it was $1,700 for the cost of the rink for all of the games combined. And we're just looking to see that if the township saw the value in helping us with a community event like this, that we could bring the team cost down for each participating team. We don't want financial limitations to be stopping guys from coming in and being a part of this, because it's a great opportunity for guys to kind of get reconnected, get associated with their local Legions, a bit of a recruitment drive. And then also we're going to be collecting for the food banks and such like that. So other than that, it's going to be a great community day. And we don't really have anything like this to kind of, true like grassroots, and it's going to be a yearly thing. We're going to do it every year. And, we look forward to continuing on with it. And we look forward to hopefully you guys working with us. And, if there's any wiggle room to help bring down our costs, that would be much appreciated for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Foley. Committee, any questions? Councillor Kent.
Hi, Mr. Foley. Thank you. Is this an event for kids or just for adults?
It's adults, so it's a men's hockey tournament.
Okay.
And then, everyone, like the majority of the guys have families. So I'd say on average, we're 25 to 35, the age group. And then everyone's got their families. So what we're doing is we're not going to interfere with the public skate that's always held on Saturdays. So we're going to have the tournament. Everyone's going to have their families. We're going to do the public skate as a big group for all the families. Perfect. And then all the guys will go over, have lunch, and all the families can do skate. And then after that, the last two games will be the final. So it's just kind of a one-day quick, fun event.
I was just going to say it's a great event. Sounds like a great opportunity.
Yes, thank you very much. It'll be a lot of fun.
Thank you. I see Councillor Zavitz, Councillor Roberts, and then Councillor Nishikawa. Councillor Zavitz, you're on mute.
So I am. Hey, good morning. Thank you, through you. Chris, thanks for coming forward, and certainly appreciate the event. Sounds great, and I love the idea that you're going to be doing this and so year after year. And thanks for that. I wonder if I could direct a question to Public Works to our director. Ken Becking, in terms of what have we done as a township when someone comes forward like this? And I suppose there's a myriad of options here, whether all, none, some. I'm just trying to get a handle on what, if it is $1,700.
Sorry, it's 1570 for
Okay,
the ice.
so
Ice and insurance is
Okay,
1570.
thank you, Mr. Foley. Let me, I think the question is being directed towards our Director of Public Works. Is that correct,
Oh.
Councillor Zavitz?
Please do, yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Director Becking.
Madam Chair, it varies depending on the will of committee and council. There have been cases where there have been reductions granted. There are other cases when we charge the regular rate, so it's at the will of the committee.
And just for clarification, what is the rate? Just so that we're talking the correct
I
number?
don't have that information off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay. So Councillor Zavitz, okay, Councillor Roberts.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, the question directed to Mr. Foley. The cost, we've identified the cost that you would have, the township would need from your tournament. What do you estimate to be your total cost to put this event on? Or I guess, what are the costs separate from the arena costs?
Total costs. So the ice rental and the insurance, it's 1,570. For our referees, it's 720. So total, it's 2,290. All the food is being sponsored by people volunteering at the Legion, and so basically all the food and everything like that, that's all going to be donated already, and everyone helping to serve and everything, they're all donating their time. So really our only costs that we're incurring are the ice and the insurance and the referees. So total cost is $2,290.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
We're doing this though, right?
Yeah.
Just. I think the direction that I suppose I should be asking Corey more, but is there room for grants at this time? Have we used up our allotment for the first rounds of grants?
Thank you, Councillor Nishikawa. I do apologize. I was getting some procedural coaching here from my left. Could I ask you just to quickly ask that question again? Just.
Well, if Corey's on the call, or I'm not sure, but what is our position with our grants, our community grants?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore, do I see you? Thank you.
Yes, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Chair. Our 2023 community grant program, we haven't launched it yet. Once we receive budget approval for this year, we'll launch the 2023 program. It sounds like an event like this should meet the eligibility requirements of that. In saying that, I don't think timing-wise we would necessarily align here. By the time we open up the program, review applications, and bring those recommendations back to council for approval, we're likely looking around May. And I'm assuming this tournament is probably within the next couple of weeks, or maybe April, beginning of April. So the timing may be a bit of an issue in that regard regarding the community grants.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Councillor Nishikawa, I know it's a little bit awkward here.
Well, I want to move something forward that, in fact, that this money would come out of the community grants budget line. And I'm trying to find a way to do it. And I'm actually looking for staff to come up with some great ideas at the moment right now. But that's my question is there, can we actually, for instance, if we did a resolution saying that we approved whatever that number would be, and that we would expect that it would come out of the community grant once the program is open. So they might be out of money for some time, but they know that it's coming. Is there a way that we can do that?
Okay, let me ask Mr. Moore again. Is there a mechanism for us to facilitate that? Mr.
Yeah.
Moore?
Yes, through you, Chair. I think in regards to the community grants policy, all final decisions regarding any applications are up to council. So I think if at this time it's something committee would like to entertain and possibly move forward right now, I think the option of having those funds come from the community grants line, if you will, in the budget is certainly an option. I don't think, I mean, Director Donaldson may want to speak to it at all, but I don't foresee any issues in that regard if this is something committee would like to move forward earlier rather than the community grant program taking place later this spring.
Okay, thank you. I do note our CAO would also like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everybody. I think another option is, you know, sort of along the lines of what Councillor Nishikawa was alluding to, I think, but you know, perhaps they pay the fee and then they make application for the community grant and they receive the offset afterwards, after the budget's been approved. It's not clear to me what mechanism Mr. Foley would use to get that money back to the other teams. I'm assuming they'd have some kind of per cost breakdown per team, and then he could flow the funds through to the team. But I think probably the appropriate approach in this case would be to have them make application for the community grant once the program is open. Thank you.
Thank you. I do note that Councillor Zavitz and Councillor Roberts, you have your hands up. Do you have separate questions? And Councillor Kent. Okay, thank you. So I'll go Councillor Zavitz, Councillor Roberts, and then Councillor Kent.
Good, thank you, through you. So certainly in support of what the CAO and certainly Councillor Nishikawa from our ward is certainly, I'm supportive of that. I'm not sure whether we need to draw a line in the sand and suggest that it should be, you know, 50% of $1,500. You know, is it $750, or do we even need to put some sort of a limit on it if we're going to entertain this during the grant discussion? So it could be more, you know, perhaps even the whole amount. So I'm certainly in support of it and would love to move it forward based on that that idea. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to be clear, Councillor Zavitz, what you're suggesting is that it goes through the community grant program once we've confirmed our budget and that program opens up. Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Kent.
Okay, I'm just a bit confused. Are we in questions or are we in debate and comment? Because it sounds like we're in debate and comment.
Well, because we don't have actually something in front of us. This was a delegation. I think with our,
Okay.
the concept is a little bit blurred. I appreciate what you're suggesting, but we don't actually have something in front of us. This was a delegation that was brought forward today. And I think what Councillor Nishikawa was bringing up was a perhaps path forward. And we're just trying to navigate that right now.
Okay, so I would not be in favor of voting on anything with the grants. This is a good application. I think if my memory serves me correctly, I think the grant amount we have for this year is $5,000 in the budget. So I think there could be other groups come forward. So I'm in favor of it going through the grant process, but I wouldn't want to do anything with it. And on a second thought, because this is more in the common area, we have a number of delegates coming in to us. We had in the past, and I see there's a few in the next couple of meetings looking for support from the township. And I think that, you know, I've been giving this a lot of thought. I've read the grant or the policy pertaining to this, and I think we should be really thinking about reopening that whole policy to see what where we better define lines on where we give money away, because it is right out of the budget, right out of the taxpayer's pocket. What I liked when I heard from Mr. Foley was that, and I'll be looking for this going forward all the time now, is significant benefit to the community and give back to the community. So he talked about the food bank, which is fantastic. He talked about and what I maybe in another year I wouldn't be so in favor of this, but we're kickstarting our life again post COVID. So to have an event like this, which in 4 years last time there weren't many events like this, that we're bringing the community together. So with this one here, I'm supportive of it going to the grant process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so I am starting to get a sense, I see you, Councillor Kent, that there's a general support for a future application throughout the community grant process. I think the secondary thing that you just brought up, Councillor Roberts, I'm just being clear, is that a future staff report on user fees. So we have a look at that policy again and understand at what point do we waive, and is there a different approach that could be contemplated. So Councillor Kent. You're on mute.
Thank you, Councillor Mazan. I actually agree completely that this is a great community incentive program. This is the kind of thing that really speaks to me as compared to some of the what I would call community incentive plans that we had earlier in front of this committee. One alternative, and this, I mean, I am a new councillor, so I'm not sure if this is even possible, but could we not be thinking about waiving the ice fees at the arena as an alternative way of just something for future consideration? Like, I believe that we own the arenas, we own the ice fees, and one other way of proposing to support an initiative like this is to waive the fees. It would also help him on timing, because the grant program, you know, the way it works now is you'd have to raise the money to pay for the ice time and wait until May or whenever for us to potentially approve some unknown amount. It's one way of going at it that might facilitate the event and get the money to Mr. Foley and his crew faster.
Thank you. And we do have a policy, and I think that's exactly what Councillor Roberts was just bringing up. There is a policy that guides our user fees, and there is direction as to different groups and different amounts depending on the group. I don't want to get into specifics on that because it's a fairly comprehensive document. And so staff uses that to direct, you know, how they charged for different groups. So there are two different pathways. And I think the community grant one thus far seems to have been one that there's been general support for. I do believe Councillor Nishka has another question or comment.
Well, along with what Sally raised, that was one of the other options that I thought we might have heard, but we didn't. But I do believe that we could use that, and we haven't always just done it through the grant program. We've waived those fees at other times. Mostly I wanted to also sort of champion, I think we've all heard it, but you know, the area is trying to reuse our facilities. They're trying to create energy and excitement about using our buildings and our facilities. And for this particular one, I like the idea of waiving the fees for the rental. It actually might end up being a little cheaper for us. Quite frankly, we might not be looking at a larger grant. But I do recognize also that a lot of the folks that would be involved in this are also small business owners at the busiest time. And, you know, $500 out of their pocket could be quite a problem in the spring, just saying. So I like the idea if we could waive the fees, and wondering if there's a question that could be put on the floor for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you very much. I support Councillor Nishikawa with this. There's all the community are volunteering. The money is going back into the community. The least we could do is to help them. And I would say to waive the ice fees and that, because we've done this before over the years, for the last 12 years, and with different volunteer groups. I mean, they're all taxpayers normally in the community who are trying to raise money for the food bank for a family that's had hardships. And I would support that. It seems ridiculous to take $1,500 in and then give a grant at $700, all that bookkeeping. Just waive the fees or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I note that the Director Becking would like to comment. Okay.
Madam Chair, one option that committee and council may wish to consider is within the existing policy, there is an option to discount fees up to 50% for community-based events. So that is something that you could do immediately without reference to other policies.
Okay. So if the fee is $1,700 today, we could already offer them a half without us having to do anything, it sounds like.
That is correct.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Nishikawa?
But we could also waive the full fees
Right.
today too. I just
Right.
wanted to not take that off the table, because I'm just really recognizing, I do know these young men in the community. And first of all, we've been dragging them to be part of the community. You know, much of us are getting on and things. And so now they're finally stepping up and picking up. And I think we should encourage it. And I think that we should try and do the full waiver. And however that, if it has to be written out today, something like that in a resolution.
Okay, so committee, there's a few paths forward. There's the approach of waiving fees today, of which Mr. Foley would already be able to go in and secure 50% as per our policy. There's the possibility of, I guess, asking staff to create a resolution to waive the entire fee amount. And or the third option, which was the first one that was floated out there, which was to have this request go through our community grant program. And now I'm seeing Councillor Roberts and Councillor Zavitz with your hands up, and Mayor Kelly. So I'm actually going to allow Mayor Kelly to go first, simply because he hasn't spoken yet. If that's okay, as I would like to move this request on. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, I would like to move this forward as well. I want a point of clarification. Mr. Foley mentioned insurance fees. Are they payable to us, or are they payable to an insurer? Or are they part of the fee that we're talking about?
Is that for me?
No, Director Becking.
The township does provide options for insurance coverage through our game tape policy. The fee is paid for by the proponent on the basis of a head count. There have been and are numerous situations where where fees have been waived, that the portion of the insurance cost is picked up by the township.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak a second time. If we do go any route other than the grant route, I would like to see the amount added to the 2023 budget. Because you recall, under the enhancements, we were talking about amounts at $1,500, whether we're going to include it or not. So we've automatically just included, we wouldn't, if we say we're going to waive the amount, we're going to automatically include that somehow in the tax levy. So I think that if we're waiving it, we should be putting it in, especially now, we're in our budget discussions, even though it'll be a slam dunk if we approve it today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. And again, thanks for the second opportunity. I could see some sort of a hybrid opportunity here where we can stay inside our lane, grant today the 50% reduction right up the get-go. That gets the 1570 down to, $780 out of their pocket. And then also the placeholder that they would be able to come forward at grant time and submit. I guess because then they'll know how successful their event was. They could come forward at that time and request the balance of the amount for the ice time through the grant process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Zavitz. Okay, committee, I do just want to do a little straw poll, just to get a sense from the group. Councillor Zavitz just brought forward, there's a pathway that would, is kind of following our policies and procedures as they are today. And that Mr. Foley would be able to secure a 50% waive of fee automatically just by the nature of his initiative. And he would then subsequently be able to apply for a grant. And so I just want to get a sense from committee if that's an approach by show of hands that this group would support. So by a show of hands, can you, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, Councillor Edwards.
So this is for 50%. Now, what if we take a vote for 0? And as well, because like
Okay.
you might vote for one, you might vote for the other, but I would vote for 0 at this point.
So you would let your suggestion is to waive the fee completely.
I would, because
Okay.
like I say, they're volunteers. If we had to hire staff to organize something like this, it would cost us much more.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I did see a show of hands for 4 that were generally in support of the first. Now to Councillor Edwards' question. And I do have something else I need to bring up with you, Mr. Foley, after I ask these questions, is general support for waiving the fee completely. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that it looks like that would be the approach. So I would need a resolution. Is that correct?
Yes, if we could just take a moment.
Okay.
Do it later in the meeting or now? Yeah.
So we will do a resolution later in the meeting to allow our staff to come up with an appropriate resolution, Mr. Foley, and we will read that later today. But just before you leave, staff have noted and asked that you follow up with the clerk's department regarding a lottery license for your 50-50 draw. So
a lottery license?
Yeah.
So just, we won't talk about it today, but the clerk
Okay.
has asked that you follow up with them directly afterwards. Okay?
Okay, so when should I call the clerk?
Yes,
When should I do that?
Friday.
Okay, great. Friday,
Okay.
call the clerk. Okay, well, hey, thanks a lot, guys. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time. Good luck with
Thank you.
everything else. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for taking the time. Mr. Foley is gone. That was efficient. Okay, thank you. Okay, that was item 4B. I am now going to be recusing myself for a moment for item 4C and allowing Councillor Burry to take the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So is the opponent here to speak? Well, he needs to turn his camera on. Mr. Dick, are you there? Welcome, Mr. Dick. The floor is yours. You have 5 minutes. Can you hear us, Mr. Dick? Yeah. Mr. Dick, can you hear us?
There was a letter attached to the agenda. I just.
Do I need to do an introduction? And now he's on mute. Yeah. Mr. Dick, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm good. You hear
Okay, the
me?
floor. Yep, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, the letter has not been read, I assumed.
Fair? Yeah,
There
fair.
there was a letter submitted. It has not been read yet.
It was in our
I'm asking?
packages. It was in our packages. We've all read it.
Okay, very good. I will apologize for the typos, which I managed to somehow include in spite of careful editing. Under the first sentence under the road, it should read hill as opposed to ill. Remnants of my Cockney accent, I guess. The last sentence in that paragraph should read there is as opposed to the is. Second paragraph under concern exposure should read presence of work as opposed to if work. The middle paragraph under that, there should be closed brackets after rock faces. And duty is repeated in one sentence near the end. Other than that, I'll remain here for questions if there are any. I think the letter stands on its own. We did have the sand removed 1 year without requesting it, and it did the job very well. And I would like to add that the road has been very well maintained. The winter maintenance by the township is excellent. And the sand is very necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. Are there questions of council members, or do we wish to have a comment from Director Becking? It's appropriate to go straight to Director Becking for a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The request from the deputant is to remove the winter sand from the roadway. The road is a rural road, and our normal practice is to not remove sand. Typically, the action of the traffic is sufficient to remove sand, and that is the departmental policy. Committee and council could adjust that policy to request staff to remove winter sand from rural roads or partially remove winter sand as the case may be. Recognizing, however, that there would be a financial impact to doing so, and that there are not funds to accommodate that request in the current budget that is before committee and council. It's a level of service change essentially.
Thank you, Director Becking. Are there other questions from councillors? Yeah, I see Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I have questions for two questions. The first question would be, if we do pass this, I would like to also include Marquee Lane in that list with Scarcliffe, because it's another township maintained road in that area, which I do see. I travel a lot and does have a lot of sand. So that's more of a comment. Sorry, Chair. The other one is to Director Becking. Director Becking, I recall that last term we purchased a used sweeper for this exact purpose. Am I correct or not?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the councillor is correct. We do possess a sweeper unit. It is used to sweep roads and sidewalks within the urban areas, which is within the township's policy. It would be suitable to undertake the work if that was the direction of committee and council.
Councillor Nishikawa. That's okay.
It's like, hey, buddy down there. Anyhow, thank you. I'm very concerned about this, we would be opening up the floodgates, quite frankly. We have so many of these locations that people could come forward and ask for this service level change. I don't have an issue with doing this one-off this one time, but I think it needs to be more a part of our roads plan. And whether we're making service changes, because there's going to be somewhere, there's just going to be a lot of roads coming forward if this is the type of service change that we're going to do. And I'm not sure that the discussion can be as great today as after we do our roads need study.
Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you. And through you, I certainly agree completely with Councillor Nishikawa. And I'm wondering to the Director of Public Works, why is it that this road, and I've read the letter, I've done my homework here. Why is it that this particular area seems to, in aggregate, have a lot of sand? I mean, to Councillor Nishikawa's point, throughout the township, we use a lot of sand. Why is it seemingly an issue, a bigger issue here than elsewhere? Or is it?
Mr. Chairman, the township frequently receives requests from residents on rural roads to remove the sand. This road is perhaps a little bit more severe a situation because of the geometric nature of the roadway. There are a lot of curves and a rather steep hill on the road. Those are the areas that are typically the focus of our sanding operations during the winter months, because of course that's the opportunities for vehicles to lose control or depart from the roadway. Hence the reason why the heavier buildup than you would see on a flat straight roadway. Nonetheless, there is an opportunity if council wants to look at a policy change. Certainly we can bring that forward as part of a level of service policy update that could be brought to bear.
Thank you, Director Becking. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that we had a policy just to do the urban centers, because the great majority of our roads are not urban. And so I think that we should look at it specifically for the area, Scarcliffe Road and places that have a large permanent residence on it. So I know it's more work for Director Becking, but I think we need to look at some of these roads and maybe specific areas where on curves and hills that we should be removing the sand, given that I forget the price of that sweeper, but it was not inexpensive. Thank you.
Councillor Zavitz, did you have a follow-up that I missed in my rookie mistake?
That's great, thank you. And through supplemental to Director Becking, and again, based on what Councillor Nishikawa had asked, is it your thought that this particular issue, the winter restoration, if you will, of some hilly terrain, if you will, in our township, will that be contemplated in our new transportation master plan under your guidance?
The transportation master plan has as part of its mandate to bring forward suggestions about changes in policy that the consultant believes would be appropriate. The focus is more on the capital side, if you will, more on the engineering side as opposed to the operational side. I believe I've indicated to council through the budgetary process that it's my intent to review a number of the township's operational policies and guidelines this coming year. That was part of my submission to you through the budgetary process. Certainly we could include that kind of a review as part of that broader exercise, and that would be my suggestion.
Well, I think that sounds like a terrific suggestion. And in fact, I think, you know, with a view towards climate changes, we will, it looks like we're having, you know, more freeze thaw. And obviously that's going to increase the amount of sand that we use on roads. So we're going to have to take a look into the future as we view as a council. So I think at this point, I'd thank Mr. Dick for his letter, typos and all, and for bringing this to the council, and we'll move forward with staff taking a good hard look at, especially some of these more serious, you know, elevation changes and hills and valleys. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much. If we're starting to look at this, I'd like to know what the cost is and maybe we should add it to this year's budget. And that because it's going to be very substantial, because every intersection has sand on it. And that people stopping, we've had other requests over the years. I think Russ Hamill Road was one where we did a few years ago, but maybe we should be doing it. But I think if they were driving the speed limit they wouldn't have a problem. But I think that if we're doing one, we shouldn't ignore other ones. And I think there'll be a substantial cost. Thank you.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Sorry, I agree with what Alan is saying. However, I don't know that we're going to come up with an answer for this season. And I'm thinking that maybe we should give an answer about this particular road, whether this group is willing to actually do the maintenance this year on this particular road before opening up to all of the other roads. And would that, I guess my question would be, do we have to wait for an answer to come back from Director Becking about that amount before we approve it? Or are we okay to just say, clean it up?
Director Becking.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that you know, we're talking about going in and sweeping the critical locations, which would be the hills, the curves, and the intersections, of which there's one intersection, there's one major hill, and there might be 3 or 4 curves where the buildup might be excessive. Quite frankly, we've probably spent more money talking about it than what it would cost to actually go in and deal with it. So to that end, I'd be happy to take direction to have that work done this year, pending a more formal review of our level of service policies.
Sounds like a plan to me. Well, just nodding heads. We don't need a resolution for that. We'll just charge staff with. Thank you, Director Becking, and thank you, Mr. Dick. I'll see if I can find our chair, a real chair.
Okay, thank you. I do want to note, I noted at the very beginning of today's session that all were in attendance with the exception of Councillor Bosomworth, but I did note that also Councillor McIntyre is not here today. So thank you for those who picked up on that. And at this point, what I would like to do is turn our direction to item 4D, which is a presentation on Kayakomat. And Mr. Rosadiek, is he in the, yep. Oh, there you are. Excellent. So you have 5 minutes. And after 5-minute delegation time, I will open up the floor for questions from committee. And welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you for hearing our delegation. Just a question before I begin. Did the councillors receive an information package on Kayakomat? They did. Yes. Great. Okay. So would it be, I have a short a few pictures of a PowerPoint presentation that I could share with you that would help in the explanation process. Would I be allowed to share screen?
Thank you. Staff will help us out with that.
Okay.
Just give us a moment. Thank you.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, there we are.
Okay.
Can you see that, Mr.?
Yes, I can. Yes. So, so the kayak-a-mat is a concept for a self-service rental system for kayaks and SUPs. It's of interest to municipalities and parks because it's a system that allows kayak and stand-up paddleboard rental in locations that might not otherwise be economically feasible. The concept is that you go through an online booking system and that the kiosk that contains the equipment is not physically manned, although the operator is always available by phone, text, or email in case there's any problem with the booking system or retrieving or returning the equipment. So it has very good online visibility. And our experience here in Alberta with the 2 sites that we were able to get launched last year was that within a week, we had people finding these sites online and driving up to an hour to be able to share in paddling. So park operators have found that it increases traffic because it encourages both locals and tourists to take advantage of park facilities. It offers the community an opportunity to have community groups, associations, be able to use these facilities. Oftentimes, local operators will give substantial discounts to schools and associations, clubs, because it's both good for the operator to have more traffic to their site and build community awareness. And it's also good for the community members because it allows them to have a very pleasant recreational experience at a very affordable rate. Some of the reviews we got from here in Alberta mentioned that exactly that point, that many of the users were people who either couldn't store a kayak at their home or were not in a position to be able to transport a kayak on their car. And so they said, we haven't been able to kayak in the past, but this is so affordable that now we can go kayaking every weekend. So all we're seeking from the township is permission to be able to have these kayak-a-mats in suitable locations in your township. You have an amazing paddling area. You're heavily visited by tourists. And so having these kayak-a-mats available at select locations in your township, I think would be a boost to the local economy, bringing more tourists into the area. It naturally supports, local restaurants and things. Tourism is always good. And it's a very nice addition to the recreational possibilities for locals in your community. So just a bit of an explanation on how it works. The website, the key to this system is the smart locks that are on the kayaks. So a person goes onto the worldwide website, similar to Airbnb. They choose their location, they choose the piece of equipment they'd like to rent, and once the booking is completed, they receive a 6-digit code. The booking system keeps track of which codes are available for which locks, and the lock itself keeps track of which codes were used, which prevents someone from renting in the morning and then coming back and using the same code in the afternoon. All the equipment necessary to satisfy Transport Canada's regulations are present with each rental. And the fact that...
I apologize. I had myself on mute. I was just about to let you know your time was close and now it's up according to the clerk.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, committee, thank you very much for that. It looks like a really interesting initiative. And I think there's probably a lot of things that are involved with that. If there are specific questions for the delegate, I will ask that you can ask specific clarifying questions. But I do wonder if it would be appropriate for staff to come back at a future time with an actual report as to what would be included, because I do think there would be elements like insurance and you know, how this would fit within our you know, recreation needs and stuff. So I see Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I understand the direction you're trying to go in. However, I don't want to miss the opportunity to say, and it was interesting because I had this conversation with a business owner in Bala yesterday about pop-up shops, for instance, because this would essentially be a pop-up shop. And the fact that people don't pay taxes, that there's businesses out there, and in fact, we do have outfitters within our municipality that actually do rent out canoes and kayaks and all of that sort of thing. But I was very mindful that this business owner mentioned to me that in fact, they struggled through COVID. They struggled through all of the hardships of being a business owner in a community and paid their taxes. And they didn't necessarily like the idea of the whole pop-up situation. And I just wanted to put that out there, that there's more to this than what a great idea. It's a tremendous idea, but we've got a whole business area that we need to consider as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Committee, any other questions or comments? Mayor Kelly?
Excuse me. Thank you. And through you, what I'm not clear on, quite frankly, from Mr. Rosatiak's presentation is whether your intention would be to place these on publicly owned property, or would these just be something that a local marina who already has waterfront and a business might opt into, in which case I think it would be subject to normal planning rules. I'm just not clear on the ask. And I think just quick corollary as well to what Chair Mazan suggested about liability. You must have a waiver as big as the Bible to get yourself freed from the unsupervised and uninstructed use of this stuff by people who may or may not even know how to put a life jacket on. So just those two issues that I'd be curious about.
Okay, Mr. Rose, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly. I'm sorry. Is it Rosadiak? And you are on mute. Yes, there you go.
There you go. Okay. It's Rosaduke. That's very close. Thank you. Yes, that is a good point that the councillor brings up. We have an extensive online safety and waiver program. And it's interesting that when we approached an insurance company for liability insurance here in Canada, they were very excited that we had an online safety and waiver program. The insurance industry has found that if you're in front of a desk and you have, 3 or 4 papers that you have to go through and sign, you're more likely to just flip through it and not really be conscious of what it says. Whereas online, they find that a person can take their time, scroll through it, and the insurance industry has found that people are more likely to really understand the waiver when it's online. So Kayakomat actually has an excellent safety record, better than the industry standard. And I think that probably speaks to the online safety information that we provide, and that is very understandable. We look for operators from the local community. So these are people who would likely pay a fee to the township for use of public land. Most places do put kayakomats on municipal property or county property. The town of Innisfil, for example, has a kayakomat on the public beach in town, St. Catharines, Sunset Beach, other municipalities, Thora, Centennial Park. So we pay the county or the operator pays the county or municipality a fee for the use of their land. Parks Canada takes a percentage of the yearly revenues. So we have local people operating these sites so that they can encourage usage within the community. And they're paying their fees like any other business owner. So it's not exactly a pop-up in that we are, I think I'm not really sure of how the pop-up concept works in your community. But out here, it's, yeah, there are no fees charged. It's usually, yeah. And I understand the point with local business owners. We don't seek to compete with established marinas, but oftentimes the Kayakomet concept allows us to put these rental facilities in places where they would otherwise not be feasible, and yet they serve a very good purpose in the community. They're also good for the environment, and that the equipment is all dedicated to that body of water. So there's absolutely no danger of transferring invasive species or anything like that. For the kiosk, no electricity or water or internet is required. They're completely self-standing. All that's needed is a flat patch of ground, basically.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so seeing no other questions, the committee just want to get a general consensus. Are we interested in staff coming back with maybe a future report that has taken a note of some of the comments made today and what an option forward? Okay, so just a quick straw poll, because I'm seeing some nodding heads and some shaking their heads. So if you're interested in a future staff report, could you kindly put your hand up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
I'm not sure what we're asking staff to do when you say, like, I don't know. Do they just generate a report saying this is our public lands or locations that we could put these things? Like, I'm not sure what we're asking our staff to do.
Okay, so let me ask staff if they would if they need further clarification as to what you could come back with. Thank you.
I presume you're looking at me.
Oh, sorry. I am really, it's new. We're back in person.
I would suggest, Madam Chair, that staff should review the proposal from a corporate perspective and provide committee and council advice as to whether to proceed with this initiative, and if so, under what terms and conditions we might want to consider.
Okay.
So if that's the intent, then I'll pull that together.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so generally, I think, Councillor Roberts, you have a question or comment?
I have a comment. I just think this would be probably added to our recreation manager's role, because this is out of the box thinking on a service that we can provide from recreation. And I would also think that through that soon to be engaged recreation manager, that they could work with local businesses to see how they could partner with this company and to provide the service. I'm thinking of the Bosomworth area and the Bosomworth dock, where later on we'll be approving the wharf managers for that. It would be a great opportunity for them to have a facility there to promote their business and provide services that maybe they don't promote right now. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think at this point, I've heard from the Director of Public Works that he is able to bring back a future report. There's a lot of moving pieces, Mr. Rizudik, in our community right now, as specifically as it relates to recreation. So it's never as easy as it seems right out of the gate, but we do appreciate you coming forward today and sharing your business model with us. And it has been noted by committee as well as by staff. So stay tuned for more details. I was about to move on, but now I see Councillor Zavitz, you have your hand up.
Thank you. And through you, I guess I would refer back to what the mayor has said. This is, to me, this is purely entrepreneurial. This is open market type of thinking with this type of idea, where I see marinas having some use for this. I don't see as a township where, where we want to be involved in this. And I don't know why we would ask staff to come back with a report on from a business perspective when that really isn't their mandate. That's not what we would really do. I mean, anyone could rent these items at, at any marina, should these two parties fuse a relationship. So I don't know what staff would come back with, and quite honestly, I think they have more important matters than being an economic driver in our township. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Edwards.
I would tend to agree with Councillor Zavitz, and that they shouldn't be in our parks and our beaches. We have a problem in Windermere already with the Windermere House having kayaks and that. Last year, they moved them over to where the swim area was, and there's people there that should not be in kayaks and that with their swimmers. So I would not support that. I think it should be at marinas if they're going to, and maybe we can save some time. Thank you.
So so I'm clear, do we not want staff at this point to proceed with a staff report and just let this idea be out there, or I'm seeking clarification?
Well, I'll wait for what the committee and that decide, but I think that we shouldn't be putting businesses on our public land at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
I agree with Councillor Edwards in so much. It's interesting because our complaints are more about public access to the water. I think we're now going to be looking at restricting that even more so if we put businesses there. But more importantly, I would suggest that what we could do today is move this forward to the chamber, who then could promote it through. It is not just the marinas. There's other businesses that also operate with a non-marina status, but waterfront. So all I'm suggesting is what Alan had said was I did have a concern that this would be on our township lands. Well, I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, so committee, I'm just trying to move this forward. There is a different thought that we don't need to have a staff report, and that we could allow this as a private business to follow up perhaps with the Chamber of Commerce and other local businesses to see if there's an opportunity. I just want to have a general consensus. By show of hands, is committees, I had seen some support for a staff report, but 3 members have now suggested that they don't think that that's necessary. So if I could just see another show of hands, for those who do not feel it's necessary at this point to have staff complete a report, and a quick show of hands, please. One, so that staff does not need to come back with the report, a future report on this particular initiative. I see 2 hands. I see 4. Okay. Councillor Zavitz, did you hear the question? Well, he walked away. That's why I'm asking the question. He wasn't there. So
I did not.
Yeah. So the question was, you brought up the idea that now we don't need to ask staff to go away for a report. So I'm just wanting to be sure we're giving staff clear direction as to next steps with this specific initiative. To a quick show of hands for those who do not think we need to send staff away for a staff report on this particular initiative. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. And those who would like to see staff do a report. I see 3 hands. So plus me. Okay. Okay, I don't think we need to do a staff report. I apologize. I'm doing the number game, right? Because that matters. Okay, thank you. So I do not think we need a staff report on this particular initiative. So thank you very much, Mr. Rosier, and best wishes. Okay, I'd like to now move on. I know I am sensitive to the time, but I would like to move on a couple of items before we take a break. So looking to our Director of Public Works, item 5A.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 5A. Traditionally, the township has been the host of a farmers market at the Hannah Park and Jaspin Park since 2011. It's been on the basis of a renewable agreement. The last renewal included a discounted rate of $750 per site per year, plus a $1,500 security deposit. The renewal for the next 4 years is before us, and the proponent of the farmers market is requesting a renewal on the basis of the previous fee. Current policy provides for non-alcoholic commercial use of our parks, subject to a $275 per day fee. There are 10 days per year, so that the total fee would be $2,750. In 2018, Council passed a resolution that provided for a 50% reduction of fees for what was deemed to be community-based events, which arguably this event falls under. Staff are recommending that the current policy be adhered to, and that the rate be set at $1,375 per year, representing a 50% reduction in the fee, plus the $1,500 security deposit. The report outlines a number of alternatives that were considered as part of the analysis of this matter, and you may wish to pursue any of those alternatives. With that, Madam Chair, I'll answer questions.
Thank you. And just committee, we do have a resolution, so I am going to follow the model that has been standard, which is we will ask questions of staff at this point, and then I will read the resolution, and after that, we can then debate. So Mayor Kelly, I see your hand up. Would you have a question?
Thank you. And through you, yes, I do. To Director Becking, we have a policy, I think you said that community-based events get a half rate. Is a for-profit business able to be a community-based event? In other words, if this thing's operated on a for-profit basis, does that disqualify it from being a community-based event?
Thank you.
The policy does not, in my view, properly define what constitutes a community-based event. One could argue, and many have, that by covering their costs, in inverted commas, they are not for profit. And as I've indicated in my earlier remarks, this event does benefit the community. And that has been the traditional position that's been put forward to during previous renewals. So,
thank you. Councillor Kent, a question?
Yeah. This is for Councillor Becking. Thank you. It's not Councillor Becking. For Mr. Becking.
I got elevated.
Director
Thank you,
Becking,
Councillor.
thank you. You can have my job. Would my only question relates to this has been around for 4 years. We're proposing another 4 years. Shouldn't we be putting at least inflationary increases in so that everybody is playing by the same rules here? Our costs are going up. Everybody's costs are going up. There's no reason why they should get more of a free ride than everybody else.
Thank you, Councillor Kent.
So I would suggest you rise the 1,500 should go up based upon the 4 past years of inflation, and then a forecast for a 6% increase for this year, and then maybe.
So Councillor Kent, I just want to make sure I'm clear on, is this a question? Because right now we're just asking questions.
Should we not be raising the rates to be consistent by putting inflationary past and forward increases in?
Thank you. Director Becking.
Madam Chair, the recommendation before you is based on the current fees and charges bylaw, which was adopted by Council in 2022 and includes a inflationary allowance in it already. Council or committee and council could elect to further enhance the rate, given that it's a 4-year agreement. But that would be your prerogative. The policy or the recommendation that's before you is consistent with the current adopted policies by council.
Okay. Councillor Kent, just a comment on that. I believe this is the same question that Councillor Roberts had previously, that we do have this policy, and that's a future point we may want to have a look to see if it still reflects what we want today, given some of the decisions that are before us. So Councillor Roberts, did you have your hand up or? No, okay, that's okay. But Councillor Nishikawa does. A question.
Thank you. My question would be to you. Could we read the resolution so we could have comments, please?
Of course. Anybody have any other questions for staff? Councillor Edwards.
Just for clarification, when you said $1,500, is both sites? And that was $750 per year or $1,500 for both sites, where you were recommending $1,375 per site per year?
Thank you. Director Becking?
Madam Chair, the councillor is correct. The under the previous agreement, we charged $750 per site per year for a total of $1,500 annually, plus a $1,500 deposit for the 4-year period. And so I can understand why there's confusion, because it's 1,500 times twice, essentially. What is before you, or the recommendation that is before you, is a 50% reduction on the current fee indicated in the fees and charges bylaw, which would amount to an annual charge of $1,375 per site per year, or a total of $2,750 total per year.
Okay. Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution and then open up the conversation for debate. So moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that the rental fee for the use of Hannah Park and Jaspin Park sites by the Port Carling and Bala Farmers Market for the 4-year period from 2023 to 2026 be set at $1,375 per site per year, representing 50% of the rates set out by the bylaw 2022-152 and in accordance with resolution number COW-10-14-06-018, and that the applicant be required to provide a $1,500 damage deposit for the duration of the contract to be used at the discretion of staff to cover the cost of repairs attributable to the operation of the markets, and further that the Director of Public Works be authorized to execute all documents necessary to proceed with the events. Now I will open up the floor for comments. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I would like to move forward the $1,500. It's interesting, the conversation, you know, about it almost felt like we need to charge them more but they're doing something for our community. And in fact, I hope that Mr. Moore is keeping a scorebook about all of those things that we do for economic development, because it has been said in the past that we don't do much for economic development. But honestly, I can say that I've been to both markets many times over the years. It's Tupperware, folks. Like, we're not talking about big money here. These are people that are bringing their arts and crafts, their passions. There's not large amounts of money being made, but the impact on the community. So for instance, the number of people that are driven into Bala on a Monday morning, for instance, or whatever day gets chosen, makes a difference for all of the other business as well. So I feel that we should stick to the 1,500. This is not about a money maker at all from the farmers market. In fact, these people are doing it on a volunteer basis. the people that run them. So I would like to suggest that we move forward the $1,500.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, and through you. So I guess just for clarification of Councillor Nishikawa, when you say $1,500, you're talking about keeping it status quo, in fact, at $750 each. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I won't be in favor of that. I think that the staff recommendation to go to the $1,375 per, up from $750, just makes a whole lot of sense. We're still discounting it 50%. We're helping out, we're helping economic development. And we're taking into account Councillor Kent's thoughts on some sort of inflationary aspect. I don't think anybody could look at us and say we're not spirits of the township helping out the community by cutting a fee in half. Yes, it's a lot more than it has been the last 3 years. It's up $600. But I too have been to these markets, and they put a lot of people through. So it's exciting, it's great, but I certainly will be in support of the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Edwards?
Yes, I would support Councillor Nishikawa on that. When people just walk through the park, what would we charge them? Nothing. And that it gets people out. They walk through it. If it at Hannah's Park, they probably walk the trail around. They're getting exercise. It brings people into Port Carling and into Bala, that they are now going to other businesses when they're there. It's an active thing for the community. And did they change Port Carling from Thursday to Mondays and vice versa? Because I thought they were still the same, but that's just a comment. But I would still support that, even if you went 800. But to take it from $750 per site to $1,375, that is really a large amount. And I could see even going $800 per site, but that's what I would support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts?
Again, I support the staff report. And whatever we do, if we decide to increase the fees, I would like to see it in the 2023 budget. Because every time we do that, we just keep on adding to the tax levy in some way. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Debate? No? Sorry, I'm getting conflicting. I have you in person. I can see your. Okay, we're ready to vote. It sounds like I've had 2 members of committee bring forward the idea that we could reduce the rate further to current rates. Just want to get a general sense from the rest of the committee because it's been supported. Is there a support for reducing the fees to current as put forward by Councillor Nishikawa and Councillor Edwards? Just a quick show of hands if there's support, or nodding of heads. How about that? How about nodding of heads from those who, not Councillor Edwards or, okay. So I feel like I've read the resolution. I am going to ask and call the question then. All those in favor? The whole resolution?
Just the amount. Is there an amount?
I've read it. It was the for the amount of $1,375 per site, representing the 50%. Sorry, thank you. So having read the question, I'm going to call it at this point. All those in favor? That will carry. Thank you. I am looking at the time. It has been a bit of a, I was hoping to get through one more, but I think at this point we will take a 15-minute break. And then we will work through the rest of the agenda. It would be my goal anyways. So we will be back at 20 to 11. Thank you very much.
He's good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, committee, are we back? I feel like we might be missing now Councillor Zavitz. Is that correct? We can start. I'm just making sure I'm not gonna wait. I just don't even see his window. So I just wanted to know if he has left the meeting or if he is with his camera off. Okay. At some point, will I see his picture again then? Just from a,
I'll contact.
okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, we are now moving on to item 5B. And Director of Public Works Ken Becking, this is your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee will recall that the township adopted a Parks and Rec master plan last year. Included in that, the list of recommendations was recommendation 40, which recommended that the township as a high priority proceed with a arena feasibility study to identify solutions for the provision of recreation space for the foreseeable future, and certainly no less than 25 years. On the basis of that recommendation, staff have prepared a draft terms of reference to conduct such a study, which is attached to my report for your consideration. The study is proposed to be divided into two phases. The first phase of which is an information gathering phase. The second phase will identify the range of practical alternatives to address the issue. It will evaluate those options and ultimately provide committee and council with a recommendation on how to proceed. The key deliverable will be a study that will document, or sorry, a report that will document the study, the steps taken to ensure that that we're carrying out a thoughtful decision-making process, and ultimately recommending a solution that will satisfy the community's needs for at least the next 25 years. As the terms of reference indicate, we're anticipating a rather robust public engagement process and public consultation process throughout the conduct of the study, so as to ensure that the public's thoughts and wishes are part of the overall decision-making process. With respect to governance, it's my recommendation that because of the relatively narrow scope of the study, that it be driven by myself as the staff liaison between consultant and this body, with this body taking on responsibilities for overall guidance and direction, subject to the delegation of powers by council, and that council be ultimately responsible for the final decision-making process. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Committee questions. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you. Director Becking, quick question. In the background section of your report, there's a lift from recommendation 40 of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but reading it, it would seem to me that the only thing that is ruled out in the feasibility study is the possibility that either of these two facilities could be rehabbed and put back to work. This speaks as if they're both obsolete and that one or both will be replaced and with something new. And I'm trying to figure out if that's really the case. And if it is really the case, does that mean that whoever undertakes the study will be asked not to look at the possibility of a rehab, or is that within the realm of possible answers they could come back with?
Madam Chair, the intention is that the only thing that's excluded is the do nothing alternative. Frankly, you cannot afford to do nothing. Within the scope of the study is precisely as described by the mayor. consideration should be given to rehabilitation of the existing structure or structures. It doesn't specify. I purposely kept that completely open so that the consultant knows that they have the full range of alternatives to consider. We have asked, as part of the terms of reference, that both of the facilities be examined extremely closely to evaluate their condition and what would be needed to see them through the next 25 years of life. I hope that answers the mayor's question.
Thank you. Committee, I see Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, the mayor just asked the question I was going to ask because I look for a very, very detailed assessment of the two arenas, so I'm not going to talk anymore about that. And I apologize. My question to Dr. Becking, if it is in his report and I missed it, the question I have, there's two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Do you have an estimated time period for the completion of phase 1? And again, I apologize if I missed it in the report.
Thank you. Dr. Becking?
Madam Chair, there is no time frame specified in the report, so the councillor has nothing to apologize for. It would be my estimate that the entire study could be completed before the end of this calendar year. The information gathering phase of the study should be relatively brief, in my estimation, because a lot of the information that would be required for the first phase was in fact collected by the consultant that completed the Parks and Rec master plan. What will take the time is to do the detailed review of the two existing facilities. And so I would expect that the consultant should be able to complete, again, subject to timing of the award of an assignment within the first couple of months. I would expect that the first phase could be completed. Obviously, when that occurs according to the calendar will be decided by when council approves the budget and when we can go through the procurement process to secure a consultant.
Thank you.
Supplemental,
Councillor
Chair?
Roberts? Yes.
Is it okay to go ahead, Chair?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that information, Director Becking. I'm just, it's going to be to the end of this calendar year. I'm just wondering if there are milestone dates throughout the period where you can come back and provide just a staff report on the findings to date. A brief staff report, maybe 2 or 3 times during the calendar year up to, so it doesn't hit us all at once in December. Thank you.
I think under phase 1 and phase 2, I believe that is the recommendation, but I will ask Director Becking to comment.
That is correct, Madam Chair. The consultant will be required to come back to this body, subject to council's delegation of authority, at least at the end of each of the phases or through each of the phases to give an update and a progress report so that you're kept up to speed and brought along ongoingly, rather than having, the intent is not to have everything come in and dump on you at the end of the process.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I believe Councillor Nishikawa is next.
Thank you. Trying to figure out how to make this a question. I guess my concern is that, or how this will happen, or I don't want the opportunity to be missed to take into account and being more creative. Our curling clubs have been suffering in many ways. And so I think that I would like to see an opportunity for them to be part of this if we are looking at a redevelopment. So I guess my concern is that it's a bigger picture than what I read in this particular document. That we're going to look at options of whether we have to replace and all of those things, but I don't want to miss the opportunity of bringing in some other groups that in fact could benefit the township quite a bit, and we could benefit them.
Okay, so a question, just to help with the question part, is there an opportunity for public to participate and bring these types of concepts or ideas forward in this process?
Thank you for the question. And the short answer to the question is yes. In phase one of the study, there are, in my mind, there are two ways that this question is covered off. Firstly, the consultant is intended to do a community needs assessment. So if curling is a need, it's intended that be identified through that task. The other point of contact I would suggest is through the public consultation process. I would strongly recommend that people engage. We want people to come out. We want people to be active and participate, because frankly, 25 years is a long time, and we want to make sure, I think, that we get it right, so that we do meet the needs of the community into the longer term.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, allow me to please read this resolution, and then I will open it up for any kind of comments or debate. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that the terms of reference attached as Appendix 1, report number PW-2023-015 for the completion of an arena feasibility study be endorsed, and that staff be authorized to prepare and issue a request for proposal based on said terms of reference to obtain consulting services to complete the study. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Thank you, Director Becking. Moving on now to item 5C. Back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A bit of a housekeeping issue. Under the current parking bylaw, a vehicle is defined as indicated in the report, and it expressly excludes motorized snow vehicles. Over the course of the past winter, we have had several situations where these vehicles interfered with our snow clearing operations, and under normal course of events, we would contact bylaw. Bylaw would come out after us trying to get compliance, and if necessary, ticket these vehicles. Unfortunately, because of the exclusion of motorized snow vehicles in the definition included in the bylaw, bylaw is not able to assist us. So what is proposed is an amendment to the bylaw, which would include motorized snow vehicles in the definition of a vehicle, and authorize the issuance of tickets and or the removal of such vehicles should they be found to be interfering with our snow clearing operations.
My apologies. I'm going to start that again. I didn't have my mic on. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that 3 readings be given to bylaw 2023-021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-43, parking bylaw. Any comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And Director Becking, I believe this last one is also you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the former council will recall a delegation that occurred back in September of last year from a deputant from the Bala area requesting permission for the creation of a community garden in the Bala area. At that time, council opted to refer the matter to staff for further consideration. Under the current situation, we do not have a policy with respect to community gardens, although we do have several. There's a community garden in name escapes me, the little parkette that's down off of
Archdeacon?
down below Archdeacon, thank you. And also in the Milford Bay community at the Milford Bay Community Center. In any event, given the absence of any kind of policy background, staff have pulled together a draft policy which sets out the proposed rules and regulations with respect to the creation of any new community gardens. Inherent within the policy would be the intent that any existing ones be grandfathered as they already exist. With that, Madam Chair, I think I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Committee questions for Director Becking. Okay, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Thank you, Director Becking. I just have a couple of questions here. First of all, is there a copy of the Community Garden Partnership Agreement available for review?
Director Becking.
No, I don't believe it is. I don't believe it's been created as yet, but it would be generated. It would be a very short form agreement based on the terms and conditions contained within the policy, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Madam Chair, I have two more questions.
Okay.
The next question, during the creation of this this document, were any of the Muskoka community contacted for input or suggestions on the document?
Director Becking.
No, Madam Chair.
Okay.
This was developed by staff based on other policies that exist elsewhere in the province of Ontario.
Okay, well, thank you. And then my third, which maybe could hold off until either tomorrow or the next day when we talk about the libraries, but I'll ask it anyways, and we can postpone it. But I was just saying, since the Milford Bay Community Garden Club is under the umbrella of the Milford Bay Community Center Hall Board, would the members of that club be, as is suggested under the library, be covered under the township's insurance?
Thank you. Director Becking.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure that I'm the best person to answer that question. I think Director Donaldson is probably the more appropriate person to speak to that issue.
Okay. Is Director Donaldson on the call? Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Donaldson. Did you hear the question?
I did. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members of committee. If the organization is under the Hall Board in a structure that is ultimately reports to council, then it would be covered under council's volunteer coverage under the general insurance. If it's a group of volunteers that have self-organized and do not have any direct reporting relationships up through the Hall Boards to council, then we would have to confirm with our insurance carrier in terms of that relationship, but is it possible that they would not be covered under general liability?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you. This would be to Councillor Roberts. What is the size of the garden plots in Milford Bay? Are they 8 by 12 or different?
Thank you. And I think that Councillor Roberts may suggest that he doesn't like them being called plots first off, but that was a bit of a debate, I think. I will allow you to answer that question, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Councillor, our chair. Yes, it was decided in 2016 when we built the 36 gardens, which were all raised gardens, which are our standard side 4x8, but different heights. But we also have bed gardens in the memory garden. It's quite a large area that we've been blessed with. A few years ago, also, we take care of the volunteer fireman garden, which is on Bosomworth Road, just before the community center, and it is large. It's a mound, so yeah, they vary in size. So they're not going to be no garden. It won't be fixed to an 4x8. As in the policy, it allows for different sizes. Thank you.
Perhaps I can ask for clarification on the question. Is the question because we'd like to see an amendment to a portion of the policy, or maybe you could direct towards if there's a.
No, I was just interested in the
Okay.
size, and because they have been there for years, because I just thought 8 by 12, they'd almost have to get in them to reach the center. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, questions? Any further questions, committee? Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution. And then if there's any further comment. Moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Burry. Be it resolved that the community gardens policy as outlined in staff report CED-2023-10 be approved. Any comments? Councillor Kent. And then Councillor Roberts. No question. Okay, Councillor.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm very supportive of this document, but I would like to ask for a deferral for at least 1 month. So because this, as everyone's aware, this document came out on Friday, and it is March break. And I tried to reach out to some of the leaders of the community club in Milford Bay for their comments, because there are a few little changes I could say or suggestions. So I just wanted to ask for a deferral for 1 month so that the community that has had gardens in place since 2016 could have a chance to review the document and provide comment back to staff on that document.
Okay, thank you. So you're asking for a motion to postpone for some further public comment. Thank you. Councillor Zavitz and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. And through you, I would not be in favor of that. It's spring. I think that we could create an environment where we didn't go out to the public and ask for input, quite honestly. So to hold it up for one particular group, I think this is a township document, and I'd like to see us move ahead whilst, being mindful that there's always opportunities to update and upgrade it. But, Bala doesn't even have a hall board at our community center. So, I think that this is a wonderful opportunity for the public to join together as a volunteer group and get something going in that location. So I would not be in favor of any kind of deferral whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I would also request no deferral. The reality is we're not just holding this off for 30 days. We are holding it off for 60 days because it has to come to council. And so I believe there's time between now and our next council meeting when this would be ratified for that information to come forward. But it's about other communities too getting involved and giving. People are starting to already put their beds in motion. And I happen to know that I was talking to an individual at a garden center, and there's now these new beds that are being purchased that are of interest. So I don't want to hold this off for months and because it's in reality, we wouldn't have any growth in other areas. that's just the way gardening goes. So I would request that we do not defer.
Okay, so Director Becking, just for clarity, if there were some further amendments, like minor amendments to the policy between now and when it comes to council, is that something that can be facilitated by staff?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. If the councillor wants to reach out to that group, and if they would like to provide me with comments, I will bring that forward at the time that council considers it, and you can choose to amend, accept, reject, or amend as you see fit.
Okay, I think that could be an appropriate process forward. I do see Councillor Roberts, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I do like that suggestion by Director Pink. I'm sure we can get the comments in. As I said, Director Pink, well, you've been promoted, you know. You're not only in charge of public works. You guys. Anyways, we'll leave that alone. Director Becking. I like that idea. I just want to put it on the record. In 2016, I am the chair of Community Gardens in Milford Bay. And I just want to put it on the record that in 2016, when I was approached to be the chair, I had done some studies. And I came back with all the studies to the ladies in the community and said, we're going to take 8 to 10 weeks to do this. And I was informed that no, we'll be planting by May, mid-May. So it can be done. It's not a big problem if they to do that. So we had 20 gardens done in 4 or 5 weeks in place and planted. So I just want to give you put that. So I will work with the community and Director Becking to come back with suggested changes. And one thing for sure, we're going to, anyways, I'll leave that. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I've read the resolution. I am going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Thank you, Director Becking. I believe now we get to move on to Michelle. Item 6A. Report on our land from our Land and Agreements Coordinator. Welcome, Michelle.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Mazan, and good morning, committee. This first report is regarding applications that the township has received for the sales of an original road allowance from both abutting landowners. Staff are recommending approval of the applications subject to the noted conditions. And with that said, I will turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Okay, committee, any questions? Seeing none, I will read the resolution and bear with me, this is a long one. Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that original road allowance applications ORA-01-23 and ORA-02-23, Wallace and 2420377 Ontario Inc. be approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the township forward correspondence to both abutting landowners of the original road allowance to be closed, roll numbers 4-15-044 and 4-16-002, requesting either a confirmation of participation in the transaction or a waiver of interest. Should the township not receive a response by the specified deadline, the failure to respond will be treated as a waiver of interest. 2, upon the confirmation of waiver of interest from the landowners of roll numbers 4-15-004 and 4-16-002, the corresponding draft numbered reference plan of survey shall be prepared and provided to the clerk for review within 1 year of the date of this conditional approval. 3, that either abutting landowner would not be deprived of access to their properties. 4, that the township be in receipt of the following from the acting solicitor. 1, confirmation that public notice of the proposed disposition was published pursuant to the township policy C-LS-06. 2, confirmation that the District of Muskoka and other applicable agencies have no concerns with the proposed disposition, and that 3, a road closing bylaw, a declaration of surplus resolution, and any related necessary documentation to effect that disposition. And okay, now I'm moving on to point number 5. Payment of any applicable fees for the land costs, solicitor's time and disbursements, as well as confirmation applicable property taxes have been paid up to date. Committee, any comments? Thank you. Please do not make me read that again. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Michelle. Item 6B.
So this second report is regarding a license agreement application the township has received to recognize encroachments of an existing dwelling and a concrete septic tank that are situated on a portion of township road allowance known as McIntyre Road. Staff are recommending approval of the application subject to the noted conditions. And with that said, I will turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that license agreement application LA-01-23 bracket 10000325902 Ontario Inc. be approved subject to the following conditions. 1, that a draft numbered reference plan of survey be prepared and provided to the clerk for review within 1 year of the date of this conditional approval. 2, that the township be in receipt of the following from the acting solicitor. 1, confirmation of a title search that the applicant is the owner of the abutting land and that the encroachments are located on the township land. And 2, a draft license agreement to the satisfaction of the township. Point number 3, that the applicant provides proof of liability insurance covering the encroachments in the minimum amount of $2 million with the township named as additional insured. 4, payment of any applicable fees related to the preparation of the license agreement, including but not limited to the solicitor's time and disbursements, as well as the confirmation applicable property taxes have been paid up to date. Committee, any comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? So thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much, Chriselle. Oh, thank you very much. And I will now call upon our deputy clerk for item number 6. Okay, 6C.
Thank you, Chair Mazan, through you to committee. I just wanted to say how nice it is to see council back here in the chambers. It's been a very long 3 years, so great to see everybody. This report provides an update regarding the project to rename Muskoka Road 38. A thorough process to engage the Wataw First Nation community was undertaken, resulting in approximately 45 potential names for Muskoka Road 38. Wataw Mohawks Council and a Wataw Mohawks naming committee vetted these names and settled on 3 recommendations for the Tri-Council Committee to consider. The Township of Muskoka Lakes was represented by Councillor Ruth Nishikawa on the Tri-Council Committee. The group unanimously recommends to District Council, subject to agreement by the Ministry of Transportation, the first choice of the Wataw First Nation. The recommended name is Ganyagohaga Yohadaje. The simple translation is Mohawk People Road, indicating where the Mohawk people live. It was the first choice of the Wataw Mohawks First Nation because it speaks to their identity, who lives in the community, and on the land. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Committee, any questions?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Nishikawa. And then Councillor Rob or Zavitz.
I just wanted to further Cheryl's. So it was very, very interesting. The meeting was very interesting in so much that another great education piece. But there's no but. I learned that WADA doesn't really have the meeting from their perspective. That was something that happened. And again, it referring sort of the message back to Oka. I mean, that's where these folks are from, and that whole Mohawk designation. And again, it is really important from my perspective that it is their choice. It is not our choice. And it really won't be affected. I had a question raised by Councillor Zavitz of in fact, thinking that they would not be referring to 38 any longer, but they will be referring to 38. That will be in a small portion of the signage, so it's not like it's going to be a complete. But this is happening all over the place. I know that in 3 different occasions in Severn Township, they've done name changes, so for the roads. So it was a great meeting, and I'm glad that we're moving forward on this.
Thank you. Councillor Zavitz, you had your hand up, but it's down now. Okay. I do want to thank both of you. I will read this resolution, but I think I might need some assistance because I actually realized that I did actually go and look at the video, but I didn't fully appreciate that I was going to have to read this name out loud today. And so I may ask. Okay. I will read this resolution in just, well, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I do want to, just while I am receiving this here. Excellent. Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you to both of you for representing us from the township in this important initiative. So with that said, moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that the Township of Muskoka Lakes supports Muskoka District Council's adoption of Ganyo Ga Yohadaje.
Yeah, very good.
Excellent. As the new name for Muskoka Road 38. Any comments? Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you, just a quick comment to pick up where Councillor Nishikawa left off. CAO Hammond and myself were in attendance at the Indigenous Leadership Table meeting. I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. And I can tell you the story behind the selection of this name is palpably emotional. And listening to the story, Chief Franks was there with, I believe he was a communications director who participated in it. It knocked me off my sort of burly pedestal. I mean, I was quite engaged. It's a very engaging story. I hope someday maybe Chief Franks and his director of communications can visit our council chamber and share the story, because it really is impactful. So I think this is terrific.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, see none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you both again for your work and your representation. Okay, moving on now to item 7A. Chief Murat, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. I bring forward a report that references the fire station location study terms of reference. As committee may recall, this report and the slideshow that is before you refers to a draft terms of reference that was referenced in the fire master plan. And it was actually calling for, in one of the recommendations, recommendation number 20, that committee investigate the idea of a fire station location study under recommendation number 20. This fire station location study is intended to guide decision-making regarding fire station locations from now until the future for around the 25-year period. The terms of reference before you describes how this study approach will follow. You'll see that there's an information gathering phase, very similar to the terms of reference for the arena's feasibility study. The assessment of the existing fire stations will be taking part in that period as well. And then the second phase will involve both the development and the examination of alternatives, and as well as stakeholder engagement will be occurring throughout the study. There's actually surveys and multiple times that the consultant will be speaking with both firefighters and the public. The key deliverable will be a fire station location study report that will be delivered to this body and then through to council. And we do recommend that this proceed at this time so that results are available for budget in 2024. I now stand for questions.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Councillor Burry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the fire chief. Is it possible to also get an inventory of all the equipment that's in each of the fire stations as we do it at the same time?
Okay, thank you.
Through the
Morale?
chair to committee, yes, we're actually working on that document right now as a part of our ongoing reporting to council in an annual general report. So we'll both be doing it there, and then also during this assessment of the locations and what the locations and the plans for any changes in locations. We'll also have to envision moving those resources or maintaining them as they are.
Thank you. Okay, thumbs up from Councillor Burry. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Fire Chief. And just give me a second here. So the location study report, Chief, will it include, I think it needs to include, but I'll ask if it's planned to include, will the fire station location study include details that identify the service impacts as important and potential insurance premium increases could result? So I recall a few years ago, there were some discussions, and one of the constituents in Ward Bede on the discussions had presented that by closing down one of the fire halls, their premium would jump significantly. So what I would like to include in the report, if it's not already contemplated, is whatever is proposed that the study identifies the potential increase on the property owners for closing down a fire hall, which is within so many kilometers of their house. Will that occur? Thank you.
Yeah, so the question then is there an impact assessment being done for residents in this study?
Yes, so I would draw council's attention to page 7 of the report, and you'll note it there that under item A3, other alternatives as the consultant may deem worthy of consideration will also be considered, and plus the impact to any locations that are envisioned for the future. This study will envision a lot of components, and for committee's reference, within the establishing regulating bylaw, it actually has the term fire underwriters contained within the bylaw. So I know that impact will be evaluated because that is a part of the first information gathering phase.
Okay, thank you.
Supplemental?
Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that was going to be included because it is a very key component for our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. So it's interesting, and this is a question. I have a different view of our insurance. And in fact, I did, my own little study, I guess, within Ward A, that in fact, there's a number of people, even though that they're 2 minutes from a fire hall, that don't get the benefit. It depends on your insurance company. So I'm not sure if there's an opportunity to ask within the study a more specific question. Do you actually get to benefit? And how we draw out that information. So for instance, it appeared that Chubb Insurance was not identifying that particular saving in this particular situation that I'm discussing. So it seemed like the carrier, the number of people that were not realizing any sort of benefit happened to come from that particular insurance carrier. So there's a lot more to it than to say, well, somebody's getting a benefit. I'd like to understand truly who gets those benefits. And I don't know how we go about doing that, but I want to make sure that that's in part of the.
Okay, so again, I think this is to do with the impact. Chief Morale, you've been listening to some of the questions here. Is that going to be contemplated in the study?
Yeah, if you'd like, I can address.
Thank you.
Sorry, through you to committee. I welcome that question. That's a very thoughtful and excellent question. So when you look at when a fire station location study looks at a lot of components, it doesn't just envision the insurance component. And much to the councillor's point, I have a great relationship with Chubb, and I can tell you that one factor of what they evaluate is the fire underwriters, but it is a factor. There are many other factors that they look at after that factor. And some of their distance to the fire hall calculations are actually changed quite a bit based on other factors that you do on your property. So if you, and it's a balancing act, and it's the same way in the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. And as you go through to the regulation or the fire code, often people think it's very black and white the way the fire code is wrote. Insurance companies approach it the same way. They do look at alternative solutions to preventing risk. So I can tell you that this study, back to the study, will evaluate the impacts of insurance. They will then be looking at an evaluation methodology to bring to this body so that this body can make choices that are well informed. That'll be beyond the scope of this fire chief to be able to investigate. And one of those, and it will be constantly be brought out by this person, is the insurance impact that might occur for certain people in our area. The goal of the study at the end of the day is to meet our mandate, and our mandate is to protect people. So in a lot of ways, that is about putting the right resources in the right places. And that is right now we are mandated to do that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Councillor Nishikawa?
Sorry, just as a follow-up, but I would ask, and I'm not sure that it's necessarily the fire chief's department, or if it's in or working with within our roads, is also doing an inventory of how many of our roads are not actually passable for probably 6 months of the year.
So is there seasonal?
Yeah, so where is that study?
Thank you.
A great question yet again, through the chair to the councillor. This is really a matter for the Public Works Director, and I don't know if he's on the call, but I do believe he's working on a transportation master plan and its development. And a part of that, considerations that he is considering in that plan typically is the width of the roads and whether or not the roads can accommodate the emergency apparatus that are partaking on those roads. And much to the councillor's point, the reliance there is a lot of reliance on us from Muskoka Paramedic Service to maintain that piece of the business for them, because they know that if our fire trucks fit that road, then they will also be able to make it down that road. I know this fire station location study will help us select the apparatus that we require in those areas, and it may make recommendations for alternate resources that we may have to contemplate.
So specifically, I'm talking about snow clearing.
So, sorry.
So
could you ask
on
the question
our
again?
seasonal roads, and snow clearing is specifically what I'm talking about, not necessarily the widths of the roads or things, but truly the roads aren't plowed.
Okay, so I think that this particular report is to do with the feasibility on the location on fire. But if there is an impact on the seasonality and the upkeep of the road, I guess the question is if that impacts our community. Is that something that's contemplated in the location study or not?
Currently at this time, that's not what's in the terms of reference before committee.
Okay, so perhaps separate to this, we can ask Director of Public Works on the roads then. Thank you. I don't see any other questions, so I will read the resolution and then we can open it up for comment or debate. Moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that the terms of reference attached as Appendix 1 to Report ES-2023-001 for the completion of a fire station location study be approved, and that staff be authorized to prepare and issue a request for proposal based on said terms of reference to obtain consulting services to complete this study. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, that is carried. Thank you, Chief Morrell. We will look forward to that study. Moving on now to item 7B, the minutes from the Public Library Board meeting. I'm assuming we've all read those. Is there any comments or questions on those? Okay, I don't have to read anything to it. No, okay, thank you. And I will now move on to item 8A. Sorry, I'm having a hard time speaking here. 8A, which is a report from our Economic Development Officer on the libraries at Walker's Point and Milford Bay. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, committee. Today's report is an item returning to committee for discussion today. Some on committee will recall approximately a year ago, upon the completion of our new municipal grants policy, we worked on completing MOUs with the operating grant applicants. And at that time, the volunteer libraries in Milford Bay and Walker's Point were among those. During that meeting, a large part of the discussion included the insurance coverage and just an understanding on that area. And staff were directed to clarify some of the understanding regarding insurance coverage with the libraries and our insurer at the time. Since then, we've gone back, obviously working now with our new insurer on this to develop a clear understanding and path forward. As per our current community center bylaw, we determined that the volunteer libraries are not included under the hall boards in that. And as per our insurer has advised that therefore they are not included in our insurance policy. We did connect with the volunteers from both the libraries, and it was their understanding that they are under the current hall boards. And you can see in the appendix of the report, we were actually able to find some past committee meeting minutes that actually spoke to this as well. So with that understanding, you'll see in the recommendation today, staff are recommending to amend that bylaw to include the volunteers from the libraries under the community center hall boards. And with that, the contents in the libraries themselves be included in our policy on the schedule. With that, your chair, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, I do want to ask, there's Councillor Zavitz. Okay, thank you. And any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. I will read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that Community Centers Bylaw 2019-062 be amended to include volunteers from the Walker's Point and Milford Bay Libraries as per staff report CED-2023-09, and that the general insurance coverage for contents of the Walker's Point and Milford Bay Libraries be added to the schedule on the township's insurance policy. Okay, committee, any questions or comments at this point? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Excellent, thank you. That carries. Thank you, Mr. Moore, for that report. I don't believe there's anything under unfinished business, so I now will move on to new business. I am going to suggest that there's 3 different areas. The District of Muskoka updates we will do first. Second is a community events update, and we don't have it as item C on here. But if there are other items, I will put them under item C, which I think there's a couple that are being asked by some of our colleagues. So I see your hand up, Councillor Zavitz. If you would allow us to go through the District of Muskoka updates first, then the community events, and then we will get to item C, which is any other new business items. Okay, thank you. Okay, District of Muskoka, I'm just looking at you. All 4 of you are here in a row. Who wants to go first? I'll go. Mr. Burry, Mayor Kelly. No, Mayor Kelly's going to go first. Okay.
Thank you. And through you real quick. I attended at the Muskoka Airport Monday morning. There was a bit of a reception for Minister Patty Hadju of the federal government. She's the Minister of Indigenous Services. She's also responsible for FedNor. And she was there to recognize and pay out on, I think it was 4 grant recipients in total, most of which were outside of the boundaries of the township of Muskoka Lakes. But the one that really resonated with me was it was great to see Gary Frood and Gail Dempsey there on behalf of the Chautauqua. They received a grant. My recollection is it was for $35,000, but I may be off. Basically to hire an intern to help promote the Chautauqua for this summer. So it was great to see them. Great to see that moving forward. If you haven't been to Chautauqua, you should find a way to get there for at least 1 or 2 of the events, because it's time well spent up in Windermere. I think it's in August, but I'm sure it'll be well publicized. Only other comment I have, it's community events. I'll leave it till later. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burry.
Committee of the whole met a little over a week ago, and the budget is progressing through. It's all encompassing. And I will say that that while this process, we knew people got into it late. I think there are some things that we might be able to fix for next year.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you. At the community planning and that, Peter Sale was there to discuss the integrated watershed management initiatives and also the climate change orientation. And there was a motion, and it was approved that the federal government will give 50% or $250,000 for the floodplain map in the area. I think the others were just subdivision in Huntsville. An amendment on another housing for treetops, which is not in our area. And that is just about it. There was a few minor budget changes. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. For health services, and in fact, I'm going to engage Guy, I think, a little more, but talking about money, you know, a lot of our discussions are talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars going to healthcare. And how the district is going to actually approach that, what our shares would be. Just to give you an example, the Fairburn project that we took on, we started this with a loan from the district for $10 million. We're now in, I believe, $64 million discussions with the district about having taking over this home and all of those costs that are involved with that. And interestingly, if I get my numbers right, there is only there's not even half the money is coming from the province. So that's a concern, you know, when we're talking about 64 million. I will say on a positive note that there will be additional housing built behind McVitie Place and the Pines for essentially senior women who they're targeting. We don't know the number of units yet. I think Alan might be able to correct me or not, but it started out with I believe 16 units, and the message that was delivered was try and increase it and do more. If we're opening that, go higher, do whatever you can do to make more of those units available. So that was very positive. My biggest, again, concern is that the population actually really starts to look into our projected costs for healthcare in general and the long-term care homes, because that is going to be a huge impact on us for the next 20, 25 years. And it's the whole idea, as well as I guess the share portion, the share from Muskoka Lakes, for instance, the share from others, and let's make it equitable.
Thank you. And I believe there's a nod to the financial implications. Councillor Burry, that's
I'm not sure a lot of this is ready for public consumption. There is a runaway freight train trying to build 2 hospitals at the same time, which I think we were able to ensure that we kept to the reserve for this year, which is a number a little less than $400,000 in a reserve to go towards some kind of hospital redevelopment. So it's a long-term plan, but as Councillor Nishikawa has quite aptly framed, left unchecked, this the proposals that are on the table could mean tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of tax money that would come right back to the township of Muskoka Lakes, given that we pay 35% of the district budget. So there are several of us watching, and there's more to unfold.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Nishikawa.
I just wanted to ask this question. I know that I can ask the mayor as a side note, but I think publicly I would like to ask him if he could bring us updates of district initiatives on our roads coming forward in 2023. Like heads ups kind of thing. And I know you won't have the answers right now, but if we could have that information and then others could prepare for road stoppages, those kind of things. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. And now I'll move on to item 10.
Pardon me, Chair. I have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's in the yellow part of your screen again. Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, I'll get my wife
It's not
to.
your fault.
We're going to paint the walls here. The pine comes out as yellow. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is questions directed to Councillor Nishikawa, and just a comment. When I was with the Region of Peel, there were services provided by the region, specifically the one I'm thinking about were daycare centers. They had 7 or 8 daycare centers in the Region of Peel, and the Region of Peel elected to outsource or to get out of the business of daycare centers. And they turned them over to private industry, which was very successful. The question I have for Councillor or a consideration through Councillor Nishikawa is that perhaps given that the ballooning costs for our long-term care facilities should be outsourced, or we should get out of the business of doing it at this time and offer it off to a private enterprise to let them take it on. So that's just more of a public comment that maybe we can't afford to be in this business, and maybe perhaps through the district could consider that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will allow Councillor Nishikawa to comment.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. It's mandatory that each municipality or district has a long-term care home. That's a given. And I would say from a larger perspective, people's comfort levels seem to be more comfortable going, or what we've heard out of essentially over the COVID period was that people's comfort levels were greater with a government-run facility than the private homes. But essentially, we have to run a long-term care home in the district. That's mandated by the province.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. And Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Roberts, actually Fairburn was run privately. When they were going to expand and that the province told them to expand even larger, and they just couldn't afford the volunteer group and that running it. They just couldn't handle it. They came to the district and asked them to take over, and that something like that large, and that I would just assume it being, and that the not going private. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on now to item 10B, community events. Any in the community? Mayor Kelly, I saw that you had your hand up, and Councillor Nishikawa.
Mine's retroactive. The Lions Club in Windermere put on their turkey dinner on Saturday night last weekend. It was well attended by councillors. There were 3 of us there. And it was also well attended by people who had opinions about pickleball courts. So it was a good opportunity to meet with everyone. And the dinner was great.
Thank you. I've been hearing anecdotally that it was really well attended, and it was really nice to see some communities actually pulling together in different communities, which is nice sometimes, right? When we have to get out of our own neck of the woods. So thanks for that update. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. Further to that, it also, one of the things I noted, and one of the things we used to do, and Alan would remember these days, we used to bring the hall boards together once a year, just for them to just jab with each other, what they needed, what they wanted. Do you want to trade this? What you want to do? It wasn't staff. It was the members of the hall board that were made a huge impact. But what I noticed, at least when I was at the dinner, because I would just say that there are folks, and I'm very grateful for those folks out there, that will go and support another hall board. So we had a lot of people from Walker's Point, for instance, that attended. We had people from Walker's Point in the Torrance hall board attend. So those were something that I had missed over the years. But in fact, let's embrace that again, and let's bring those hall boards together in the future. And again, it doesn't have to be staff driven. This is going to be the agenda. Just get them together to chat. So the other thing I did want to mention, though, is the high rollers will be at the Bala Legion on Friday night. And it's a very, very, very popular event for St. Paddy's Day, and go and support them. Thank you.
Thank you. I heard about that last night too. So
I should say, sorry, they are also still looking for people to curl in a Scotch doubles event at the Bala Curling Club, which would be happening on the Friday and Saturday as well. And all you have to do is call somebody up and they'll give you a stick, because it's all going to be stick driven. So anyhow, participate.
No, that's great. Thank you. And I agree. I think anytime we can pull communities together, it's wonderful. So any others? Okay, I'm not seeing any more. I do have item 10C. I have a couple of items. I think I saw Councillor Zavitz had his hand up. I think Councillor Roberts has his hand up. And I do need to come back and read a resolution from the first delegate today, which was Mr. Foley. So I will do Councillor Zavitz, Councillor Roberts, and then this resolution.
Thank you, and through you. Just because I don't want this thing to lose the traction that it's got, and I'm speaking very specifically about pickleball, whether or not, again, I don't seem to understand when is the best time to bring this up, but the only piece of the pickleball puzzle that public spoke at our budget public meeting the other night, and that was great, and they came forward. And still on that topic and point, the only thing we haven't seen, and again, this is all a build up, a preamble to next week when we then get together and discuss that budget on a more fulsome basis, that the one thing we haven't heard is in terms of the shorter term interim 2023, what are some of the that low-hanging fruit that we could accommodate some enhanced pickleball opportunities within our facilities? And I know that in discussions, a number of discussions with Director Becking, he had some really excellent, insights and thoughts on what we as a township could do for, I'm going to use the term, not a lot of money. Here we are going to debate that, I suppose, next week. I wonder if it's possible to ask Director Becking if he could walk this committee through some of that real, how do I say it? Not easy, because nothing's easy these days, but the more simplified opportunities we could to increase pickleball opportunities for new folks and to create additional timing and opportunities for courts. So is it possible that we could ask Director Becking to talk to us about that?
Okay, so I think part of the challenge I'm witnessing in the last month or so has been that there isn't really a specific business plan / ask from pickleball. And so it's coming back to us with confusion because we want to support, but we don't actually have an idea of what we want to support. And
well, if I might, I've heard the argument, and that isn't an argument.
Councillor Zavitz, thank you. If you would allow me to finish, I am going to ask Director Becking to come on. But this is kind of reinforces the importance of us having something in place and having the appropriate policies and strategies moving forward on how to support recreation as a whole. Right. And so I will ask Director Becking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's my understanding of the issue is that there's a lack of adequate capacity. to accommodate pickleball within our existing infrastructure. To your point, no one has formally come forward and said so, but be that as it may, if in fact that is truly the issue, there are a number of things that I think can be done. We could currently, as I understand it, the arenas during the summers at least are available to the group 3 days a week for 3 hours on each of those days. By simply adding an hour on one or more days, we could conceivably easily add 30% to the available capacity at a relatively modest cost. The only additional cost would be the staff resources necessary to be in attendance during the additional time. If the intent or the desire of council is to increase the outdoor capacity, we currently operate 2 tennis courts, each having 2 courts. Currently, one of those 2 courts is already lined off for pickleball. So in fact, there could be there are 2 pickleball courts on one of the 2 tennis courts at each location. If the desire, as I say, is to increase the outdoor capacity, council could consider marking off the second tennis court in each of the 2 locations, and that would effectively double the outdoor capacity. The cost of that would be relatively modest. It would involve the painting of the lines and on the 2 courts and an additional 2 sets of nets. The third option, if the intent is to further expand the indoor capacity, there are a couple of additional community centers where we could paint lines for a pickleball court. The ones that immediately leap to mind would be Walker's Point, Bala, and Port Carling. Again, it would involve the painting of lines and the purchase of some additional nets, but that would represent about a 15% increase in the indoor capacity, or 20% increase in the indoor capacity, if that was council's desire. So I think there are some simple practical approaches to address the issue in the short term. My caution to council or committee and council is simply this. I think there is a need for a more fulsome review of what is actually required by the community. And so I would caution council not to get into the game of creating new infrastructure without taking a very thoughtful look at the matter and seeing if in fact additional infrastructure is required.
Thank you. I see 2 hands up. I see Councillor Nishikawa and Councillor Roberts. I don't know, Councillor Roberts, if you wanted to also speak to this one, but I'm going to allow Councillor Nishikawa to go first.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the discussion, the topic, but I'm very concerned about the process that's happening right now. I hope we're not going to be having some kind of vote coming out of this or some direction to staff, because some of the user groups are not part of the conversation today. So, because I would say I have a real strong concern, and I've raised this concern quite a bit. To eliminate tennis courts, because that's essentially what we would be talking about. To eliminate the tennis courts, would be a service level change ultimately. And I'm reminded in Walker's Point that, and Milford Bay the same, but Walker's Point, the public fundraised for those tennis courts. At some point throughout my experience in that, they actually would also have a tutorer come and help people with those lessons and things. I've had calls this week and last week and this week because an individual attended an event within the Walker's Point Community Center, essentially bullying people that the township was moving in to dig up their tennis courts, and we're going to have our pickleball courts. And this person has been adamant and is going through the community doing this kind of thing, which it's really, really a negative thing, but I'm hoping that we're not going to further this conversation today, because I think all groups need to be part of it. And we can't, much like the ball diamond in Torrance, we can't just give it over to one user group and eliminate many. So I don't know where this is going, but I don't believe that it can be moved forward today.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just comment on the last point, just comment, and then I'll move on to, I have 4 items of new business. I apologize, but it just happens to be I have 4. In the Milford Bay community, the pickleball lines were put on the one court and still allowed for the playing of tennis. So there was no loss of tennis courts. And I think that's what Director Becking is proposing. So let's just leave that alone. We did not lose any. And we could accommodate both games on the current platform. Okay, so the 4 new items I have. First of all, I just want to thank Annette McLeod, who is with Ken Becking and the community center's liaison. She did a wonderful job over and above. And if I was in the private business, I'd give her a bonus for doing it, because she demonstrated that she's available 7/24 on Saturday at the Lions turkey dinner. They could not get on the internet. I don't know whether it's fixed yet or not. They did have a workaround, but they contacted Annette on a Saturday, and she called. She was available, and got Dr. Becking involved, who subsequently I would like to thank him, because it was his Saturday off. He called me just for thoughts. So again, thank you very much to Annette McLeod and Director Becking for extending services beyond the 5 days a week. So the next one is I'd like to bring up is the policy for waiving fees. I did talk about this a few times, and I think that we should move forward with that. So I would like to ask through the chair how we can ask staff to revisit the fees policies, and so that it's not, we don't have a parade of people coming in asking for us waiving fees and without it being in the budget. All right, okay. So that's my first ask.
Okay, thank you. CAO Hammond, if you'd like to make a comment.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you, if it's a consensus of committee, what I understand that Councillor Roberts is asking is, of course, as you know, we have a fees and charges bylaw for all of our facilities. We had a wholesome discussion about that on a few occasions this morning. We also referenced a resolution from the Committee of the Whole in 2018, which looked to adopt and or change policies to which the councillor is making reference. So if it's committee's wish to proceed with a bit of a review of that entire, I'll call it enchilada, we're happy to do so. Bear in mind, it may take us a while to come back to you, but we're very happy to undertake that review, as I said, if it is the consensus of committee to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee, is there a general consensus? I know this has been a topic on these agendas for the last few months, and today was evidence of it further to have staff come back. Just a general kind of show of hands, or you have a question on this, Councillor Nishikawa?
We are though, in fact, using that policy from 2018 that we put in place. That hasn't changed, right? That policy still is in place.
Yes.
I personally am happy with that policy at this time because there's so much more that staff need to address with the time allotted that they have. And this is not a high priority for me because I believe the 2018 resolution that came out of all of that work is still valid.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that particular ask by Councillor Roberts? Is there a general feeling that people would like to have staff come back at a future time with a report on the fees and how we, yes, there is a general sense. I know it's the time of day. Can I get a show of hands for those who would support Councillor Roberts' ask? Okay, it looked like it's only 3. I don't see okay, so we'll let that one sit for a while then. No report on that.
Then on a supplemental on that,
Yes.
I asked that the budgets going forward have a pot of money. We can discuss this next month or next week. Pot of money set aside for these onesies and twosies that come in and definitely do impact our budget. So I'll discuss that more at the next budget next budget meeting, because I've read the policy. I don't think it's strong enough or clear enough when we should and could waive fees. So I only have 2 left for those that are counting.
Thank you.
So the next one would be number 3. I've been a Hall Board chair for about 8 years. I've talked to the Walker's Point member of their Hall Board, and it's on the groups or individuals that are actually under the Hall Board and what report to the Hall Board. It has not been as tight in the Milford Bay community, where I am the community chair or Hall Board chair, as it is in Walker's Point. So I think we need to tighten up or make it clear, specific for the insurance, what members are and groups are under the Hall Board. So that's an ask. Can that come forth from Public Works? Because it's it'd be terrible if people think they're on our insurance and are not. We now know libraries people are. What do? Do I just send them a bunch of names in, or I'm sorry, people from the library board? And do I have to have them formally in my meetings now going forward? So I need some clarification on that.
Director Becking, are you able to comment? You're on mute.
Okay, I think, Madam Chair, I'd like to have the value of a discussion with the Director of Finance, and then come back to committee with some suggestions. So that would be my proposal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Roberts, did you have another?
Yes, sorry, I was frozen from the time that Dr. Becky started speaking, so I did not hear his comment.
Okay, Director Becking, I'll have you repeat, please, and then I guess Councillor Nishikawa actually has a comment on that specific item. Director Becking?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. What I indicated was that I think it's an issue that crosses several boundaries. It's the clerks involved, the Director of Finance is involved, as well as Public Works. I think send staff away to review the matter, and then we'll come back with a suggested approach to dealing with the issue. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa, sorry.
Well, it was interesting. Earlier, we heard from Mr. Moore and then Director of Finance, essentially how we dealt with the libraries. And then we talked about the community gardens, and it's the same thing, how they just have to submit their name under the Hall Board. So I don't think, and I'm very involved with the Walker's Point Hall Board. It really is just registering who these groups are. And in fact, in Walker's Point, and it's not a policy from the township. We just request that those members from these individual groups attend the whole board meetings on a regular basis because we just want their involvement. But it hasn't. So I'm not sure that it has to get much more complicated than what we heard this morning.
Okay. So Councillor Roberts.
That sounds great to me. I just want to make sure staff is available to it because I can send a list of names or the hall board. I can send a list of names in. Are they comfortable with that?
I'm going to say, because I don't see staff on here, that they probably are satisfied with that right now, but if it needs further, we can maybe bring that back next month as a question. So you have another question, Councillor Roberts?
Yes, I have. So the 4th of 4th. I would like to have an update on what council's plan is to establish the committees that we have traditionally have, the ones that I'm thinking off the top of my head: Heritage, Park and Trails, and Hall Boards, because technically we have no hall boards right now. So that's my question. What's council's plans to do that? Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you, on the first two, Heritage, and what was the second one? Parks and Trails. They are underway. I think there have been, I'm looking at the possibility of bringing back something that's a little bit different format, and have asked for some terms of reference. They've been drafted, and I honestly just haven't had a chance to take a look at them. On the hall boards, to be really honest with you, I have not looked at that, and I haven't given that any thought. So I will, let me follow up with you, Councillor Roberts, and we can use you as a starting point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can you ask a question? Of course you may. We're in a new business, so.
Thank you, and through you, this is actually more of an issue that's come up, and Councillor Zavitz raised a really good point on pickleball, but it actually impacts at least one other group that has come seeking additional funding, and that is, what are we expected to do next week in the absence of a concrete plan or a concrete ask from anyone, quite frankly. So far, and I'll just isolate my comments to pickleball, I've certainly been made aware that there is perceived by the pickleball community to be an inadequate supply of time and courts available to them. But I wouldn't have any idea how to address that in the absence of some ask from them. I'm curious to know what would fix the problem. More courts, more time. Courts in Walker's Point, courts in Milford Bay. What is the proposal? I don't recall seeing anything concrete other than, a list of issues and a request that they need more. So that we don't frustrate each other and our groups and a couple of groups that are applying for money, how are we going to handle this next week? What are we expecting? Are we expecting anything additional from either pickleball or from Chamber of Commerce, for instance, to justify the split between what they're hoping to get and where we currently sit in the draft budget? Because if we are aware of, or if we are expecting that, I'm not aware of where it's going to come from. That's my question.
Thank you. I am not quite sure how to, am I directing this to you now? I'm directing it towards our CAO. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. In the absence of the mayor indicating who, I will jump in. I'm assuming you met me anyways. So a very good question. You heard a bit of commentary from Director Becking this morning as to potential solutions to the pickleball question, but in both of the instances you've referenced, certainly I'm not aware of a specific ask that staff can quantify. So in the absence of information. The only thing that we can do is include in the next report that council will consider at its special meeting is a potential costing as it relates to at least the pickleball example. Council will need to make a decision. Are you going to support that? Or do you want to look at it, as Councillor Nishikawa had said, in a more sort of fulsome way, with a longer term view, I'm assuming. And I think you need to evaluate the other instance, which I'm assuming you're making reference to the Chamber of Commerce. You're going to need to look at, did we receive a business plan, or did you receive compelling evidence for council to consider, in addition to the 25% increase that you've already, or committee has already suggested is appropriate at this point. So those are a couple of decision points I'm assuming that council will need to look at. And hopefully I've answered your question. Happy to further elaborate if you wish.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And that's the point. If my concern is we're going to move into next week's meeting, have no new information, and either be guessing or be ignoring people who haven't presented us with the opportunity to, as you said, quantify the request.
Thank you. I do see Councillor Zavitz has his hand up, and I think it's probably to do with pickleball. Is that correct?
Well, I think it does. Thank you, through you. Not that I have the answers to these questions, but I certainly, I guess I've been quite involved in trying to shape this thing. There's a number of issues here that, we're contemplating in our budget next week, hiring a new public works recreational person. We've already essentially approved that in somewhat of a principal manner. To my mind, what we're looking at here, to the mayor, is a long-term, if the Township Muskoka Lakes is going to be the pickleball capital of the world, hey, that's something that might be decided in 24 and 25. What we're talking about right here is just really low hanging fruit, almost on the ground. People are saying, as the director of public works has said, it's simply a capacity issue. Right now, what could the township do? And Director Becking and I have had a number of discussions. We don't need the Pickleball Association to come to us and tell us what they want. That could be 24 and on. What I think we should be looking at here is Director Becking has the numbers in his head and could easily get to the CAO's point, could easily come forward at the budget next week and let us know that for $18,000, pick a number, we could have some of the things he's outlined, and that would enhance our capacity. Enough said. That's it. 23. We're done. 24 is a whole different thing with our new recreational person and all of that they will rot in public, information, etc. So I think, to the mayor's question again, I think it would be easy for us through our director of public works to hang a $16,000 number on it. I could easily vote on it. I could easily vote on the chambers, $10,000, $12,000 ask, because it's already been quantified. If all we need to do is quantify, Director Becking is sitting right here and I think it's a smokescreen to suggest that we don't know what we're doing, and we need the committee, the association of pickleballers, to come forward and tell us what we should be doing. I'm just talking about 2023. 24 and on is a whole runway of what we could do. 23 is what we could do just to enhance capacity in whatever the mildest of terms for $15,000, $18,000, $20,000. I think it's going to cost likely that. And, the mayor heard that at his public events. People want it. So I think we could have it right here and now. We could quantify it for our meeting next week. I would hope we could do that. Would make it a lot easier to vote yay, nay. Thank you.
Pardon me? No. So I don't want to talk about so we can't really talk about the budget at this particular time. But I do think that Councillor Nishikawa has raised some interesting questions, because one thing I have learned in my term on council is that there is always other voices, and it's not always the voice that's pounding the table the hardest that we have to be listening to. And so there is a bit of a process thing that needs to be contemplated with the view of trying to build communities, build healthy environments. I think a group like the pickleball group needs to know we are listening. We spent probably more time talking about pickleball than many other things around this table already. It's of interest that we need to figure out together how we can support them, to Councillor Kipsavitz's comments on a capacity in the short term. But I do think we have to be very mindful of the approach of how we do this so that all groups are being heard. And it's not just actually the tennis group. It's a loud sport. And I've heard anecdotally in community centers that it can impact other activities happening at the community center at the same time as well. So it's something that needs to take some time, I think. As far as the budget, I know we can't talk about it, but perhaps the approach is to have some money set aside, and we talk about this next week when there's something in front of us. But I think I will leave that conversation on pickleball right now, and I will move us on to, is it item number 11? No, I have to read this resolution, which I'm now going to read off the computer. This goes back to our first delegation today, Mr. Foley. I am going to read, moved by Councillor Edwards. Sorry, I'm reading off the computer. Seconded by Mayor Kelly. Be it resolved that staff be directed to grant a full waiving of user fees to the Bala Legion branch number 424 for a rental of the Bala Arena facility on March 24th and 25th, 2023 for a community-based event. Is there any comments?
I'm sorry, we cannot hear the comments.
Okay, Councillor Nishikawa, could you
Well, did the request come from the Legion or did it come from Mr. Foley? Because I believe it came from Mr. Foley. The Legion was attached as a yes, but I don't believe it was a Legion's application.
okay, so
Bring up the delegation.
okay, if you could just give me a moment or give staff a moment from an administrative process. We just need to make sure we have this correct. Okay, I'm going to allow staff to just read. So our deputy clerk, maybe. Sorry, there's a timing as to who's received the information, just as to when our new clerk started. So our deputy clerk is going to make a comment at this point.
So I will advise committee that an email request was received on February 9th, 2023, requesting a delegation, and I'll just read it so that we have some clarity. From Mr. Foley, who says, I would like to participate at next week's general finance meeting to delegate on forgiveness on some or all costs associated with facility rental fees. The event is a local hockey tournament hosted by Bala Legion Branch 424, a 4-team tournament at Bala Rink between McIntyre, Bala, Port Carling, and Gravenhurst. This event is the first of its kinds with hopes to draw attention from other legions in future years. There will be approximately 80 players involved with families on top of that to benefit local businesses along with the Legion. They talk about the public skate, the dates March 24th, 25th. We hope this tournament to act as a Legion recruitment drive and offer our local residents a family fun atmosphere for a great weekend of hockey. Chris Foley.
So it would be a Legion based upon that.
Sounds like your resolution's good.
Okay. All right, so I have read the resolution. I am going to call the question. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. That has carried. We put that off to the-
Could you ask for opposed, please?
I beg your pardon. I didn't hear. Oh, okay. All those opposed. Okay, thank you. I am now going to move on to item number 11, which is our general information and correspondence. Are there any questions or comments on any of those items? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We have nothing enclosed. I am pleased to tell you that we can adjourn today's meeting. moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that this meeting adjourn at 12:21 PM and the next regular meeting of General Finance Committee will be held on April 12th, 2023 at 9 AM or on the call of the chair electronically from the council chambers municipal office in Port Carling, Ontario.
Hybrid is electronic.
Okay, hybrid is electronic. I'm being new language. All those in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Just given the time, I do know where possible, we like to give an hour for lunch. So Mayor Kelly, are you comfortable starting your meeting today at 1:20? Okay. We will see everybody at 1:20 today. Thank you very much.